through it. There's nothing that hurts quite as much as throwing away a really good race. You're battling with someone, you're neck and neck, you're really enjoying your time. They're respecting you, you're respecting them, everything is going great, and then you spin. Just like what happened to me, about halfway through a race on Assetto Corsa Competizione. Now, I've played a lot of different games and experienced a lot of different racing communities. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here are just a couple examples of really what I'm talking about. What an
Big pile up in the source, making
Thank
up a lot
you.
of spots. Ah, no, come on!
Holy shit, what a
Ooh.
And of course, I got collected. This one.
Someone moved. Oh. Oh god. Oh, we got it. We're good. We're through. Oh my god.
They're everywhere, they're everywhere.
Are you serious right now, dude? Come on! Oh, that's a dead. See, it's really just a survival contest, I think. It's more like Mario Kart than it is like anything else. Oh, look at them go. They're all dying. Oh, look at that shove. Oh, he's dead. He's the real deal, alright. Oh, there's another one off, and the real deal is real dead. And that's what brings me to Assetto Corsa Competizione. See, I've been playing the past couple of days and really been enjoying the level of respect, even in the lowest of lobbies. Here are a couple of races just to show you what I mean. I had last second settings, I hopped into a lobby, I was in a car that I really didn't know and really didn't expect much from it, but I was looking to have fun.
Okay.
And these two races that I had that I'm going to show you, they really brought together what I feel makes Assetto Corsa Competizione just better, even on the very bottom of the floor for skill, racecraft, respect, just everything that you want on the racetrack. I've really been getting the most out of it here. I mean, some people, you know, are still a little close. They will still brake too late. They'll still dive you. They'll do all of the things that no one likes to see or experience in racing games, but it's been on such a lower level than every other game. I'm looking specifically at Forza, Gran Turismo, and iRacing even. The rookie lobbies in iRacing don't even hold a candle to the racecraft you see in most of the even no safety rating lobbies in Assetto Corsa Competizione, at least from my experience so far. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, every lobby will be perfect, you're always going to have the best race. Things still happen. It's still racing. It's just going to go that way. But ultimately, the level of respect, the quality of racing, and everything in between is extremely high on this game. And it's something I'm not used to, if I'm 100% honest, especially when it comes to racing games. I mean, if you've ever played a Forza game, especially online, you already know what that experience is like. If you haven't, go check out one of, like, I Suck at Driving's nice driving compilation videos, and you'll get the idea. Gran Turismo, you know, there's a lot of really great racing that happens on Gran Turismo, and it is at a high bar in terms of racecraft and the ability to learn and what they teach you on the game. But online, there's still a lot of people who will use you as a mobile wall, who will straight up ram you, will turn any small mistake into a very, very big deal, which I've seen happen here as well, but it's not nearly as bombastic, because the reactions can't be when you have damage like this. Hey, okay, great. But overall, from what I have experienced in terms of racecraft, the enjoyment of the race, and everything else that goes with quality racing, the things that racers dream about, I got to experience right here on Assetto Corsa, on Suzuka, with the GT3 cars, and I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this race. Not just because of the amazing battle that happened, but the high level of sportsmanship, the unnecessary level of sportsmanship, honestly, that happened in this race. Obviously, that might not always happen in higher levels of competition, might not happen in tournaments, but it seems like the general community craves a good, high-quality race in this game, whereas most other racing games, everyone just wants to win. Now, obviously there are pros and cons to both, but when you come to race in a community like this that really just wants to have good quality racing, you know, it is almost, it's an experience. We'll call it an experience. It's what I have craved from online racing in general. I felt like I was racing with friends, and the only person I knew in the lobby was the person in third, Gavri. And the race that I had and the respect that I received came from a random person in the lobby, not just once, but twice. And that experience alone is breathtaking, really. Just breathtaking. So let's actually hop on board with what's going on with our race here. We've gotten off to a good start. The Ferrari and I have kind of started to pull away from the rest of the pack. Now, granted, we're only a lap in. There's still a lot that needs to be developed and needs to happen during the race, but we're starting to really get that steady pace and start to find the rhythms of the car with the track. Now, as I had mentioned before, this was one of my first experiences, with the car, not with the track. I've driven a lot of Suzuka. I really love this track. I enjoy the racing that happens on it, and I find the rhythm needed to go fast extremely enjoyable. The car, on the other hand, was the 2019 Acura NSX, Honda NSX, whichever the newer one is. I apologize, I'm new. Yell at me in the comments below. But yeah, I was in the NSX. I really didn't know a whole lot about the car. I had driven it for a couple of laps on Laguna Seca the night before. But other than that, I hadn't really had any experience with the car. So, more or less, this is our first experience with the car, and we were trying to get the most out of it, while also making sure we could maintain our lead, which is always, I mean, that's a catch-22 if I've ever heard one. You gotta go fast, but you also don't know your car, so you can't push too hard, or else you're gonna go too hard, and then you're gonna spin. Luckily, it wasn't the combination of I don't know the car and I don't know the track, because that just makes everything so much worse. You don't know if your lines are right or if you just don't get along with the car. But for me, it was more about finding how the car fit into the lines on the track that I knew, so that I could start to gain pace, lower the lap time, push harder while still being safe. These long fast chicanes, the long fast sweepers, my apologies, the car felt very good. It was really good at entering that long corner, and going into the final chicane, it was also very stable under the braking, which allowed you to kind of get on the gas earlier and power through that section. Although the car felt good there, that was the main area that I seemed to be losing a lot of time once our friend in the Ferrari here started to find his rhythm. Now, I'm not sure if he found his rhythm or if I just started falling further out of the rhythm I needed, but ultimately I was just trying to stay focused, trying to get the car to settle down, trying to figure out how to keep it smooth on the track, where to start my accelerations, what gears to be in with the car, and honestly, I don't have a lot of experience with MR setups, especially in this game. So it was really a test for me to A, figure out a new car, and B, it's in a format MR that I'm not already know that I don't do quite as well in, at least in this game. Which was fine, it just meant that I really needed to focus on staying smooth. But at a certain point, I kind of zoned out and started running and started pushing harder and harder and harder and harder, which I needed to do because I needed to understand the car, and I was trying to make the gap between myself and second larger. It was relatively close to my pace in the Ferrari, and pretty on par with how I was running in general, but ultimately he was finding his comfort zone faster than I was finding my comfort zone, which meant that he started to gain on me. I made a bunch of little mistakes here and there, especially on the back half of the course. I kept messing up spoon, I kept going in too hot, and then turning in too soon, and then I would have to pull out of my turn, which meant I had to let off of my gas to readjust. And if you lose time there, it's just not, I mean, it's so easy to just let the time, it just keeps falling off. If you lose time on that corner, you lose time on the entire back half of the track, which is massive. You can lose well upwards of a second very, very quickly. Now, this front half of the track, I seem to have a better rhythm than the Ferrari behind me most of the time. I was getting more speed, I was able to carry more speed. I felt like I kept pulling away from the Ferrari in those areas. But as soon as we hit this hairpin, everything started to turn around and go the other way and in the Ferrari's favor. And the main issue was, again, this set of corners that we're coming up to. Well, I guess it's just a single corner now, right? It used to be a set, but spoon, right? So this corner, you really have to brake and get the car turned in early, out wide to the very end, and then turned in early again, so that you can get on that throttle basically where the curb starts on the left once you are exiting out onto this straightaway. The earlier you can get on the throttle, the faster you're going to be down this straight, and the more time you're going to preserve for your lap. Now, I kept having really questionable entries going into, I believe it's called 190R, correct me if I'm wrong, which, I could be wrong. But the huge fast left, I had so many issues going into that corner specifically. The car felt very sketchy, but I was also pushing it really hard because I knew I needed to maintain my speed there. Coming back into this rhythm section at the front of the track. This section is very tricky in general for a lot of people, and if you're looking for any sort of advice for this section, the only thing that I can tell you is try to do it without the brake. You know, use gas and off throttle and figure it out without the brake. Now here's the point in the race that changed everything. Through it.
There's a slow car up ahead.
Oh, he waited. Oh, you waited. Oh, dude, I love this game.
Car on the left.
And that was my first time ever experiencing anything like that from a random person online in a racing game. They waited for me. There was absolutely no reason for this person to wait for me. I made my own mistake. I threw my own race away. But they were enjoying it so much and enjoying the chase so much that they wanted to wait and enjoy the race more. That to me is mind-blowing. And as a reminder, this is a zero safety lobby. You don't need any sort of anything to join this lobby. You could have a brand new account, be brand new to the game, hop in and race here. The fact that this is also a random person is even crazier to me, honestly, because yeah, I know there are a lot of really great racers out there, but the majority of the time, people aren't gonna wait like that. And really, there was no reason to wait for me at all. And I think that says even more about this community and their love for a good, honest race. Comparative wise to any other racing game, I can't see this happening. I can't see it happening in a Forza. I can't see it happening in a Gran Turismo. I really can't see it happening in iRacing. And maybe it's just because of the way that this game is, that we're in an unranked lobby, and that there is no safety, and that there is nothing on the line, that everything does just come down to having a good race. But either way, that's what happened. So let's jump on board and kind of look at the rest of this race, right? Because this is, as you can see, a little bit of a bump there, but I think that one was actually on me. I kept braking really early going into the hairpin, and obviously no one's gonna wait for you when you crash to then crash you themselves, right? At least not most people. I would hope. Please. Anyways, that's not this person. This person was a phenomenal sport, and really I thank you for this race, because we got to have an amazing battle. You got to run after. You also had, you know, just look at this. We're bumper to bumper. He is right there, and it stays like this for a couple of laps until honestly I found my groove and started to pull away. But I don't know. Have you ever experienced anything like this in a racing game, to where someone actually wants just the race outside of someone you know, right? Now I'm saying like a random person in a random lobby, you're having such a good battle one-on-one, and one of you makes a mistake and the other one waits just so that you can keep continuing the battle. for me, that's the kind of racing I live for. That's the things that I hope for when I hop onto these games and play and enjoy my time. That quality of racing is what I think every racer really lives for. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm beating a dead horse here. Who knows? Let me know in the comments below. So, at this point, we are really battling. We go this way for most of the rest of this race, and as I said there, again, as you can see, he's rushing right up on me on the hairpin. So I think I'm braking too early and need to figure that one out, but I could be wrong as well. And maybe he's braking too late, trying to catch me. Either way, we both did what we could to avoid contact. I turned left early because I knew I was braking early, and he went wide to avoid me, and I appreciate that level of sportsmanship. So not only did this person wait, but they are actively not trying to hit me. You know, coming from Forza, that's a breath of fresh air in every sense of the phrase. So I really feel like the community here is above and beyond what you get most of the time with racing games in general, and that's really just refreshing. It is a refreshing community to be around when it comes to racing, and something I'm definitely not used to when it comes to online racing, but that I've always sought after, if that makes sense. So yeah, ACC, your community, thank you. Thank you for having such a high level of respect for each other, for your fellow racer, and for the love of racing in general, because this honestly feels like the best community. As I showed you earlier, races get messy really quickly on just about every other game. Though I've seen some bumping and grinding, and I've seen things get messy in this game, most of the time it's just not that way. It's a nice 20-minute race, or whatever the lobby is set to. Most people don't have incidents, and if they do have incidents, it's bumping, it's rubbing, it might be a dive bomb, but nothing that's like so devastating for races most of the time, unless it's an actual crash, which happens. It's racing, you know, that's definitely part of it, but the awareness of the community, the overall feeling that I have in lobbies, the confidence I have even to drive side by side with a lot of people, and that's something we'll get to here with the second race. It's different. It's very, very different. It's not as sketchy, you know. If you try and go next to someone going into a set of corners, you know, roughly B driver rating in Gran Turismo, you still gotta wonder, is this guy going to turn into me? Will we both make it through the corner, or will he just punish me for being next to him and decide that I don't have a right of way anymore? I don't feel like you get that nearly as much here. I feel like the car control is generally a lot better, and that the competition stays a lot closer. Like I said, these are zero safety lobbies. Zero safety lobbies. And I know I've been babbling on for this race, and I've just been basically gushing over the ACC community, but I truly feel like these things need to be said and need to be looked at, especially in racing games and racing communities, because if you want a racing experience, I hate to say it, iRacing, ACC is the place to go. And it's not because the physics are better one way or the other. Both of these games are just wildly good physics, right? But
Hello?
I've been
Races are
hit
done.
more in iRacing tenfold in the first week that I played than I have been hit in the first week of Assetto Corsa Competizione, no matter how big the lobbies are. Let's go back to a bit of sportsmanship here. There was no reason for this person to have pulled over and waited for me when I crashed. So after pulling away on the very, very last lap, I decided to slow down and basically stop and try and give him the win.
He's not gonna let it happen, huh? All you. Take it. Boop. It's a really good race. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. Like, I wish racing was like that more. I don't know, that's something else. Yeah, absolutely. It was just like, that's wow. Love it. I will give up a race on that. You deserve that win because I crashed on my own volition, and then we still got to race and enjoy it and battle and... Oh. And if I did anything dirty to that person, I apologize. I know I braked a little early sometimes, and I was getting used to the car.
Now look, I get it. I know what you're gonna say. Cast. That's one race. You're freaking out. It was a good experience. You need to really, like, tone it back a bit, man. It can't be that good. But I just want you all to know that this is the very next race. I literally jumped out of my car, got into a new car. We're in the McLaren 720S GT3 on this one. And we're in a similar position, but I had a lot of fun kind of like figuring out my car and trying to battle it back and trying to win the race on my own. That I was like, alright, let's do it and see what happens. I didn't expect this race to be as good as it was. I really, really didn't. But I have to say that this race was just as good, if not better, actually, than the first one. And I'll show you why. So, first off, we are neck and neck like this for 4 laps before anything happens. We were battling like this for the entirety of this race, one way or another, and you'll see going into the later laps how this kind of unfolds. Once again, I'm in a little bit of a similar situation, except for this time the difference is far more drastic. Okay, through the windy bits, my MR car is doing well. I'm steady, I'm able to hold my speed very well, I get through that very easily, and then once we get onto the back half with the long straightaways, I immediately start to suffer. Now, the reason I was starting to suffer in this race was more on getting used to the car again. I really had issues on Spoon, again, getting the power down in this MR car. For some reason, that corner and my driving do not mix, and so I need to figure out how to do that better still. As we went throughout the race, I progressed and got better and better and better, but as you can see, here is our friend the Lexus once again right up on our bumper as soon as we go through the fast sweeping lap. Now, my goal here is to try and put as much time as I can between us from turn 1 all the way up into the hairpin, because those are the areas that my car seems to do better and is excelling, and I'm gaining time. On the straightaways, I lose, as you can see. The car behind is just right there, bang, every single time whenever we hit straightaways. We start to hit the windy bits, and it's a little bit of a different story. The McLaren starts to show its handling capabilities and its immense amounts of grip, and shows that it can A, get on power earlier through these corners, and B, maintain more speed through these corners. Although I will say that this left right here, that Lexus was doing that corner extremely well, and was gaining a lot of time. I couldn't really find the comfort zone with this McLaren, but again, that's on me more than anything else, and my A, comfort level with the car, and B, I'm doing this to myself. I keep swapping cars, but I just got them all, and I want to try all the content, and I want to try all of the racing and the different classes and all of the different tracks, and so it's partially my fault, but that's okay. So when we are in these sections that we know we lose, our goal is pretty simple, although my execution was less than stellar throughout this race. My goal through these sections that I lose is to preserve as much speed as possible so that he can't do this on my inside. Now, the fast corner meant that he wasn't quite in a position to be able to actually poke through. It's an extremely dangerous place to pass there. I do not think he actually intended to pass there. I think his goal was to try and get me to brake too late to where I would overextend the corner and he would be able to pass me, which is a really great move. All in all, we kept doing this for these first 4 laps. I kid you not, every single time we go into that corner, we were basically right there. This seriously was a game of getting far enough away during this part to make sure that he doesn't get to me on the straights. And I'll be quite honest, it was a very rough battle because that Lexus is moving on the straights and in my slipstream. That combination meant that he was either right up on my bumper or next to me or in a position to look, peek, threaten, make a move, make an intimidation stance. Like, there were just so many things that he could do because of his speed, and it was simply because my goal was to maintain post hairpin as much time as I could from what I had gained throughout this section, and his goal was to maintain this section and wait until post hairpin so that he could run me down with the power. Honestly, he was in the better position from the start. There's a lot more straights and power bits on this track, but they are strung together with a lot of very technical and rhythmic sections of the track as well, and then me continuing to mess up this corner over and over doesn't ever help anything. But needless to say, some laps I was winning the battle, and other laps he was pulling back and winning the battle, and it kind of kept going like this. Here we go through the fast corner, he's still starting to pull up on me and catch me a little bit. We go into the tight chicane. We get the midpoint of the tight chicane, and I start to pull away from him on the exit, going into the first straight. But now we're once again on a straight, and he has a ton of time to put his power down, get into my draft, and be able to catch me ever so slightly. And going into this corner, if he's already there, if he's in front of me, I can't gain time, and with how much speed he has, my whole goal here was to get to that first turn before him, no matter what, by maintaining the advantage I get through this section. Now obviously that's always easier said than done, but mentally that's where we're at, right? We know that they're there, we know that they're fast, we know that they're on pace with us and that their car is faster in the straights. So we need to focus where it really counts and try and put in the best sections we can in that area and get the best exits we can going into every single part of that area, and the best exits we can going into the parts of the track that we know that we lose. Now, part of me losing so much on these straights might just be that my lines aren't quite there, especially with this car. This was the first time I had driven the car ever, and although I really like the car, it's very, very grippy no matter what. When it's the first time driving a car and you're trying to go fast, battling is harder. It's harder to battle. No matter who you are, if you don't know the car that you're in, it's going to be harder to battle. It's the same thing as like, okay, maybe you know the car you're in, but you don't know the track. It's going to be harder to battle because there's some part of your combination here that is a disadvantage to you as a driver when you're doing what I'm doing, swapping cars or trying cars for the first time and just immediately throwing them into races. When you're in battles, you need to be a little extra cautious. A, not to bin it, because it's going to be easier to push the car too hard, and B, to maintain your momentum to stay fast enough to be able to battle or pull away from your opponent. Now, we are heading out onto lap 4 here, and I have gotten a really nice start through this section. This first section was really kind of the make or break. If I was relatively this distance from him, exiting the hairpin, right, I could more or less fight him off through spooning through the end, but he spins.
Oh no! No, we were having way too good of a race, dude. Not gonna happen. Way too fucking good of a race to give up on that one, dude. Hell no.
That's right. I did it myself. I slowed down because I was enjoying that race. I was having such a good time with how tight of a battle we were having and how close that race really was getting. As I was getting used to my car, he was getting used to their car, and they were getting faster, and I was getting faster, and we both kind of seemed to have an idea of what we needed to do, right? I needed to try and run from the tight little bits and then get as much as I could on exits away from the big, fast sports car who would struggle a little bit more in the turns but knew that they were going to catch me on the straights, even if it was just a little bit. Now, I think there was still a little bit of concern because we'd gone through that fast left side by side for the most part, or like really close to each other and him peeking up twice now, and so on that first turn going into the first section, he had opportunity to make the move there. Maybe he didn't feel confident that he could fully get it done going into that corner, or maybe wanted to see if I was gonna ram. Maybe I'm being bullish here with
my thoughts on the community, and maybe I'll learn better after, and after a couple more hours on the track and in the servers. But ultimately, he made a look, right? He made a very good look. He knows where he's at in the race. He still has plenty of time to make the race. I've want the race. He knows that we're enjoying it. And maybe he just didn't feel like he could get it done cleanly or effectively enough to not slow himself down. I don't know. But he made the look. He didn't go for it. Honestly, I would have expected most people to go for it. But maybe that's because most people are unsafe. There you go. I said it. I don't know. Anyways, we're back to our little game of cat and mouse, and this time I really started to try and put the hammer down and go as fast as possible, because I knew that it was only going to get more and more challenging, because that car is fast and he's getting comfortable. And then I overshot. On my best lap, I had a clear 204 in my sights, as well as a gap that I had been building, which I needed for this straightaway to maintain the gap that I had built up throughout this section. But unfortunately, I throw it away by braking too late into the chicane, and the Lexus pulls through. Now the tables have turned. We know this car is faster than us in the straights, so what we need to do is try and put pressure on him throughout these handling sections, because we know that we need to maintain as much time as possible. Stay as close as we can. Don't hit him, but stay close. We need to maintain the slipstream and hope and pray that we can kind of keep up in the straights. Because realistically, even in his slipstream, I don't see the McLaren having the best of times keeping up with this Lexus in the straights. That thing moves. I don't know, it's just very, very fast in the straights, from what we've seen and what we're about to see. And his exit from Spoon was better, which means literally the fastest part of the track, where it's the easiest to lose time, he has the better entrance going into, which means he has higher speed going into it, which means he can get to a theoretical higher speed, and will have a theoretical shorter time through the section right there. You see how smooth he was through that, comparative to me chopping at the wheel, trying to make sure that the car stays on the line it needs to so that I can stay with him. I already knew where this was going. This was now a losing battle because I wasn't in front. The reason why I could fight off with the smaller portion of the track is because A, I could make a lot of time there, and B, I could make myself wide enough to defend through the last parts when he finally did start to catch me. Now that he's in front of me, I can't do that. It's just not possible. So we need to go ahead and relook at what we're doing. We need to try and find even more time up here and try and get back to that -6 or -0.6 lap time area that we were in for ourselves to be able to maintain this position, right? I am clearly catching in these sections, but the handling and tight technical sections of Suzuka isn't as long as the power sections of Suzuka. There is more time for you to put your foot down than there is for me to make up in the grippy bits. Now, obviously I got very, very close. We're right back there. We can see the back bumper again. We're back on him, and immediately we are able to try and maybe pressure. But the problem with being able to pressure now is that we're in the spot where the Lexus has the advantage. This advantage allows the Lexus to pull away, to maintain its speed better. It gets through this corner a lot better. I think that's my line.
more than anything, but the other driver is able to get on the gas earlier, keep the car more stable, brake less, which ultimately leads to higher top speeds on this straight and a better ability to get faster lap times. Now, this was a really cool battle because throughout the entire race, we kept trading back and forth on who had the fastest lap, right? I would pick it up, and they would pick it up, and they would pick it up, and then I would pick it up, and then I would hold it for a lap, and then they would take it back, and then I would grab it, and that kept happening throughout the entirety of the race, except for this next lap, because you know when you're racing someone, and you can just tell that this is about where you're gonna lose control of the battle and they're just gonna start pulling away. I think that was this lap. I think that point in this race for me was this lap, because through this section, normally by here I had already gained quite a bit of ground on the Lexus, but that time I didn't. And I was running at like very similar pace to the lap prior, and I just couldn't quite catch it, and then I made a mistake. I bounced off of the the apex curb there and kind of got pushed out a little further, but then he returns the favor with another mistake, which isn't really too big on a hairpin because you're already slowing down all that much. You're to such a slow speed anyways that, like, okay, you went a little bit wide and had to turn a little bit harder. Yeah, you might have lost like 0.1. Okay, not a big deal. Because he's once again coming back to this power section, and I once again am frantically trying to hold on to the car and frantically trying to figure out a good line to get this McLaren to go smooth, and I can just see it now. I see how frantic I was because my lines aren't outside wide grippy like they should be. I'm pushing the inside, I'm clipping curbs, and I'm unsettling the car myself, and that is leading to these issues that I keep feeling on the track, in those sections specifically. It's either too much throttle input, too much steering input, and it definitely is that my line is not out wide enough. It was earlier, but now that I'm in panic mode, my line isn't as good because my braking into that corner isn't as good, and now I'm trying to desperately hang on. I'm trying to brake deeper into T1, which led to a mistake, and if I hadn't done that, this would have been just a normal mistake, but sportsmanship once again. Here we are. Remember how I said the other person didn't have to wait, and that's why I gave them that race and gave up on it and let them have it? This person did the exact same thing for me. These are 2 races back to back, okay? 2 races back to back. The level of sportsmanship is outrageous in this game comparative-wise to anything else that I have played. He gave me the position back. I didn't have to wait for him. I could have just kept going and won the race, but I wanted to keep racing. They passed me fair and square. We had a great battle the entirety of this race. It was amazing. You all saw it. You get to see it in its entirety. What a battle. You don't get that. You don't find people on your skill level like that. Especially not ones that want to race that clean, you know?
I hate that. Why is
Here we are again to where the sportsmanship. They gave it back to me on the last lap, despite passing me fair and square, and by all means they could have taken that win. I wouldn't have been upset. But because I stopped and I didn't have to, they thought about it. they thought about it. So, let's just be real. Is ACC the best racing community purely because of the level of sportsmanship? Let me know in the comments below. I gotta see what everyone has to say about this.
That was fun. That was very, very fun. Yoi's in here twice. Look at him. I'm in here twice. Look at me. Yoi's in here 4 times. That was an awesome race. That's 2 in a row. Oh yeah, you love to see it, man. You just do.
But that's not to say it's always like that.
Are you fucking kidding me?
But hey, that's a story for another time.